Hello FIGGIE fiends and collectors, this is me, Daniel East from FIEND, back again with another Star Wars The Black Series figure review. Today we're going to be having a look at a figure that I have been highly anticipating. It started to trickle out, as per everything at the minute, in drips and drabs. But today we're going to be having a look at Book of Boba Fett Throne Room. Big shout out to Sith Lord 229 for hooking a brother up. I'm proper chuffed to have this guy. As always, we're going to take a look at the packaging itself, then the figure. As this is a deluxe figure, here you have the slightly chunkier packaging to fit the all but 3 accessories that this figure comes with, technically 4, and the figure itself, obviously. Star Wars The Book of Boba Fett, the colour band there as well, which goes around the packaging. Boba Fett, Throne Room, legalese at the bottom, Star Wars The Black Series at the top. Lovely artwork on the spine there. Then on the other side, you've not really got much going on. On the back, you've got, again, that lovely picture, bit of a bio, number of the figure, and a ton of legal garb at the bottom there. A little window hole at the top to let light in so you can see your figure good and proper. And then a ton of legalese at the bottom of the packaging as well. So that's the packaging out the way and done with. Let's take a look at this deluxe figure. And here he is, looking very, very swish, I do have to admit. Love the colour on this guy. I was a little bit dubious about it when press images did release, but the coloration does look pretty accurate as to how he appears in the show. It is worth noting there is a slight inaccuracy in terms of this figure. It should have material flowing more at the back here, rather than this just one flappy piece. I think if they just include a soft goods karma just going there, that would have been fine. But this is more like his appearance in the teaser, rather than a Book of Boba Fett. I'm not that finicky about things, but it is worth pointing out. If we just give you a bit of a look around this figure, you've got his jetpack there, of which is removable, and I will show you that when we go through accessories. I love the yellow plastic they've used on the shoulder pads. You've also got that decal there on the shoulder. Some pretty ingenious leg work, which we'll cover in the articulation. But first and foremost, let's get the helmet off and have a look at that lovely, lovely head sculpt, of which is a great likeness to Temuera Morrison. Of course, you've got some of that white scarring still going on, just because he's still in the process of healing. So he's not quite as caked in it as the Typhon Boba Fett, of which I do actually have on its way, along with Fennec Shan, so I can't wait to get those two. Just some really cool stuff going on. That being said, is it really a deluxe figure? No. No. At least compared to the previous Boba Fett of which we got, which was from Return of the Jedi. Review, link up there somewhere if you want to check my review out on that. That came with a ton of accessories and, quite frankly, more paint application than this. I'm really drawing a blank as to how Hasbro can justify the price point for this guy. There's nothing particularly too special going on with the paint. I mean, I've seen standard figures in the standard line with more paint going on than this. I hate saying it. I think it is certainly Hasbro or Lucasfilm capitalising on the name of Boba Fett. Get your tinfoil hats out, let me know what you think. It is hard to justify the price point for this guy, but having this figure in hand, it is a really, really good figure. It just loses a lot of marks for the price point and the fact that they're trying to palm it off as a deluxe when it's really not. So if we go through the accessories, he comes with his helmet, which I have showed off. You can remove that if you do wish, and it also has a flip down visor. The paint on it is pretty good, but again, nothing to particularly sing home about. If you go onto the jetpack, the thrusters do articulate a little bit. They also have the peg holes for the actual flame effects that the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett came with. So I guess you could probably use them and plug them in, but I'm not sure why this figure couldn't have included those as well, because there's certainly packaging space for that. Also, you can remove the missile. This is the 4th accessory I was referring to. And that just plugs into the top there. The jetpack fits via these 3 pegs. It does have a tendency to want to fall out and be pushed out. Might be worth gluing that if you are finicky about those sorts of things. Not too much paint going on in terms of the jetpack. It looks very clean, and that's kind of how it's meant to look, just because Boba Fett is the daimyo and he's looking all grand and not as battered and bounty hunter looking as he previously did. You've also got his blaster, or rifle rather, which I've got him holding there. It is difficult to kind of pose him with this blaster, but I'll get into that in terms of the articulation. There's nothing too amazing to ring home about. I mean, even the previous Boba Fett figure had more paint application going on in terms of the blaster, but it makes sense for this one just because he is meant to look a bit more regal and fancier. So if we just take that blaster out of his hand, he also comes with this blaster that's in this holster here, which is his tiny little tiddly blaster. Pop that in his hand. I will admit it is quite hard to get him to hold some of these accessories, but once you work it in, you do get there. The jetpack, as you just saw as well, that does have a tendency to fall off. Anyways, the blaster, which is quite nice. You can get him in some pretty good poses with that. If I just pop that back in his holster again. And that's it. That's it in terms of accessories. What I really think this figure could have come with, just as a variation and a bit of a comparison to the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett, the flame pieces for the jetpack was sort of a given. Maybe like an attachment piece to make it look like there's like a flame effect as if it's launching the missile. I don't know. Maybe even just the flamethrower piece that you could stick in the arm there like the other version came with. Maybe some effect dart pieces, kind of like what Hot Toys have done with their Boba Fett, that you could just stick into that just for some additional options. Options, Hasbro, that's what I'm looking for in terms of accessories. Blasters, things like that are given, just little additions that show that you've given some more thought into it. It adds to the experience for me with figgies and posing them and display more than anything. Limiting collectors with choices is just it's not a fun experience, quite frankly. So I think if they just took the time to add some additions in, this would have felt more like a deluxe figure than just a standard figure slapped into a bigger box. There's just so many things that they could have included with this guy, but they didn't. And it's kind of disappointing, quite frankly. In terms of articulation, he has a ball jointed head on a ball hinge. There's a ball joint in the neck as well, so you can get him to look really far down, although it's quite limited by this scarf piece here. I believe there are butterfly joints in there for the shoulders, however it's quite limited due to this big bulky armour piece, so that's fine. No complaints. Ball jointed shoulders, ball jointed elbows, swivels at the tops of the forearms, ball jointed wrists. So I know it is worth noting on this arm there are some cables, and I have to admit they're really short, really tight, and it's difficult to sort of pose the arm in a way that you'd want it to. So you can't really get him to hold the blaster in a sort of upright pose like this. It's always kind of at an angle. You can't have it flush towards his chest like how he holds it in the show. That's kind of disappointing to me. It would have been good if these were a little bit longer. Also, when you try and get it into different positions to try and make the pose work, there's that lip there on the elbow and it just cuts into those pipes. So if you overexert it, you're going to break those potentially, so just really treat those with caution. When you're posing the arm, just look what you're doing. Check that nothing's being overstrained. I mean, in all fairness, by the looks of things, that's looking to be strained as it is. I love it when they do the pipe thing, but just make the plastic long enough so you can pose the damn figure. Ball jointed torso, ball jointed hips, swivels at the tops of the thighs. And this is where I think the ingenuity comes in. Because this is meant to be like a cloth piece, they've sculpted it in plastic to kind of cut costs effectively, but the way how they've done it does work. But they've put a ball joint knee in there, so this piece sort of hangs, and you can kind of get the bend there to do the thing. So with however you pose it, it doesn't kind of interfere with the look, which I think is really quite clever, and I do have to give Hasbro some credit on that. But it has been used on standard figures, so particularly I think by the looks of things on the Ahsoka and the Typhon Fett. Ball jointed knees, swivels at the tops of the legs, or boots rather, and ball jointed ankles with the rocker joints. That's it in terms of articulation. You couldn't really ask for any more. You can get this guy in some phenomenal poses. The overall look of this figure is fantastic. I'm really chuffed to bits with it. But is it a deluxe? Not really. There's nothing too special about the paint to ring home about. You put this in a standard box, it's a standard figure. If it came with more accessories, little additional scene specific things, flame effects, that would have been dope. But no, instead Hasbro just Boba Fett taxed us, which I've heard is a term going around a lot. and it does certainly feel like that. I think this figure is incredibly cheeky for the price point. I think the Typhon Boba Fett, which is essentially the same figure but with more chipping, that's been charged even more than this. And I can't justify it at this point. I defended Deluxe as much as I possibly could, but I'm at the point now with this one where I'm like, clown makeup. Don't get me wrong, I love the figgy, I just do not love the price point that Hasbro are trying to churn onto us, and it's really killing collecting for me a little bit. I know that price rises are going up everywhere, so that's a factor that I'm pushing myself to kind of justify, but at the same time, something's got to give at some point. I mean, remember when we got the Deluxe Emperor on Throne? Review up there somewhere if you want to check that out. Came with a throne. Boba Fett has a throne from Book of Boba Fett. This is Throne Room Boba Fett. Why didn't he come with a goddamn throne? And that's part of why I've been really pumped to get this figure, because I actually got a throne, 3D printed, painted by moi, and he sits awesomely on it. Why couldn't Hasbro just produce that with this guy? You know, it didn't need to be anything too fancy. That's the Book of Boba Fett. I hope you've enjoyed having a look at this guy. What do you think of him? Let me know in the comments down below, and this is me, Daniel Lee 1000, signing out, and thank you very much for watching.